The medical bay of the Luminarian flagship Celestial Throne was silent, except for the rhythmic beeping of alien equipment that Dr. Marcus Chen couldn't begin to understand. He stood awkwardly near the entrance, his worn Earth Alliance uniform marking him as distinctly out of place among the crystalline architecture and bioluminescent lighting. Marcus had only been assigned to the diplomatic vessel 3 days ago as a cultural liaison, a last-minute replacement after the original candidate fell ill. He knew nothing about Luminarian royalty, their customs, or apparently their medical crises. Princess Veyara lay on a raised platform that hummed with what Marcus assumed was their version of life support. Her skin, normally a radiant silver blue according to the briefing files, had faded to an ashen gray. Delicate patterns that should have glowed across her face and arms were barely visible. Around her, the royal family stood in a semicircle, their heads bowed in what could only be grief. The emperor, tall and regal despite his obvious anguish, spoke in their melodic language. The translator device in Marcus's ear rendered it flatly. The resonance fades. Our daughter passes beyond the veil. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. He'd been summoned as a witness, a human presence to observe this historic moment of loss. The first contact between their species had been so promising, and now it would be forever marked by tragedy. He didn't understand what had happened to the princess. Something about an incompatible energy field during a failed experiment with human technology. The Luminarians had tried everything in their considerable medical arsenal, but their healing required something called life resonance, and hers was depleting faster than they could replenish it. The Empress, her crown of living light dimmed to almost nothing, reached toward her daughter with trembling hands but stopped short of touching her. Marcus frowned. Why wouldn't they hold her? Even in his limited time aboard, he'd noticed Luminarians were physically affectionate with one another. Forgive my ignorance, Marcus said quietly to the court physician standing nearby. But why does no one touch her? The physician, an elderly Luminarian whose name Marcus couldn't pronounce, turned crystalline eyes toward him. To touch one whose resonance is collapsing would create a feedback loop. It would only hasten her death and potentially harm the one who touches her. We can only witness her passage. Marcus's frown deepened. That seemed like a cruel cosmic joke. He looked at the princess again, at her family frozen in their grief, unable to even hold their dying daughter's hand. Something about it struck him as fundamentally wrong. Without thinking, Marcus stepped forward. Human wait, the physician began, but Marcus was already moving. He crossed the space between himself and the princess in 3 strides and gently placed his hand on her arm. Her skin was cool, almost metallic to the touch, and he felt a strange tingling sensation run up his fingers. The room erupted in gasps and cries of alarm. The Emperor lunged forward as if to pull Marcus away but froze mid-step, his eyes widening. The tingling in Marcus's hand intensified, spreading up his arm like pins and needles. It wasn't painful exactly, more like touching a low-voltage electric fence. He kept his hand steady, watching in confusion as the patterns on the princess's skin began to pulse faintly. Impossible, the physician whispered. The glow strengthened. Color seeped back into Veyara's skin like watercolor spreading across wet paper. The patterns that had been nearly invisible now shimmered with renewed light, tracing elegant spirals across her features. The beeping of the medical equipment changed pitch, becoming faster, stronger. Marcus felt dizzy. The tingling sensation had become a steady current, and he was vaguely aware that he should probably let go, but his hand seemed frozen in place. Not by any external force, but by the strangest sensation that something was flowing through him, from him, into her. Princess Veyara's eyes opened. They were the color of twin moons, silver with hints of blue, and they focused immediately on Marcus's face with an intensity that made him want to step back. But still his hand remained on her arm. You, she said, her voice weak but clear. The word came through his translator, but he could hear the musical quality of her native tongue underneath. You're giving me your resonance. What? Marcus managed to say. The physician rushed forward, scanning equipment in hand. His bioelectric field, it's interfacing with her resonance matrix. By all the stars, the human nervous system is acting as a crude resonance generator. The Empress moved to her daughter's side, tears of light streaming down her face. But how? Humans don't have life resonance. Their biology is entirely different. Different, yes, the physician said, his instruments dancing over both Marcus and the princess, but not incompatible. Look, his neural activity, his heart rhythm, even his breathing pattern is synchronizing with her resonance. It's as if his body instinctively understood what was needed and adapted. Marcus finally managed to pull his hand back, staggering slightly. A member of the royal guard caught him before he fell. The dizziness was intense but already fading. He looked at his hand, half expecting it to be glowing or change somehow, but it looked perfectly normal. Princess Vayara sat up slowly, color fully restored, patterns blazing with life across her skin. She stared at Marcus with an expression he couldn't read. "You touched me," she said, without hesitation, without knowing what would happen. "Why?" Marcus straightened, steadying himself. "Where I come from, when someone is dying, you hold their hand. You don't let them go alone." He shrugged, suddenly self-conscious. I couldn't stand watching everyone so afraid to touch you." The Emperor stepped forward, placing a hand on Marcus's shoulder. The touch sent another tingle through him, but gentler this time. Warm. "You have given us back our daughter. Humanity has demonstrated something today that all our technology and knowledge could not provide." "What's that?" Marcus asked. "Adaptability," the princess answered, swinging her legs off the platform and standing with growing strength. "We Luminarians are advanced in many ways, but our biology is rigid, specialized. You humans, you're generalists. Your systems improvise, adjust, survive in conditions that would kill us." She smiled, and it was like watching a sunrise. "Today, you didn't just save my life. You showed us that the alliance between our peoples isn't just diplomatic. It's biological, fundamental." The physician was still examining his readings, shaking his head in wonder. "I'll need to study this further, but the implications are staggering. If humans can interface with Luminarian resonance this way, it could revolutionize everything we understand about interspecies medicine, energy exchange, even consciousness itself." Marcus felt exhaustion creeping over him now, but also something else. A sense of connection he couldn't quite explain. When he'd touched the princess, for just a moment he'd felt her. Not just her presence, but her thoughts, her fear, her desperate will to live. And somehow his own stubborn human biology had reached back. "So," Marcus said, managing a tired smile, "I guess this means the diplomatic mission is going well?" The room erupted in the Luminarian equivalent of laughter, a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. The Emperor embraced him and the Empress joined, and then the princess herself, her touch now warm and alive. In that moment, Marcus understood something profound. Humans weren't special because they were stronger or smarter or more advanced. They were special because they adapted, because they tried, because when faced with the unknown, their first instinct wasn't always caution. Sometimes it was compassion, and sometimes that made all the difference.